Hey guys, welcome back to the Courageous Nerd YouTube channel for another interview. I'm Connor and joining me today is Cricket Wampler to chat all about her role as Samantha Fickman or Giggles in the new Disney Plus series Big Shot opposite John Stamos. If you enjoy this interview or any of the others on the channel, please be sure to like and subscribe. So welcome Cricket and thanks for taking the time to do this.
Thank you, Connor, for having me. I'm excited to be here.
For sure. And actually, before we get into chatting about your show Big Shot on Disney Plus, I was just wondering about your name, Cricket. It's very unusual. And is there a story behind why you were named that?
I love that you asked. I get this in my personal life a lot, but I haven't had an interviewer ask it yet, so I'm happy to answer. It is actually just a nickname.
Okay.
It's a nickname I've had honestly since the day I was born. My full name is Christina, and my family just started calling me Cricket. I don't really know why. I know it on a show there was a Christine that was called Cricket, so they might have gotten it there. And then I've always just been Crick or Cricky growing up. So yeah, it's just a nickname, and it just happened to start really sticking. So it wasn't really a question when I started acting. It was just like, this is what I go by. So I kind of just went with it. So it's funky, but I have fun with it.
Yeah, it's certainly distinctive for sure. Like you wouldn't think there's another Cricket to confuse you with. So
thank you. Yeah, I haven't run into too many. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually just on like a different angle, I suppose, because obviously you got that nickname when you were quite young, but how did you start your journey into acting? Was that similar, like a passion from when you were younger, or was it a bit later?
Great question. Yeah, so it was a young passion, but it was a young passion I didn't know I would have, or I would never have done if I didn't have my older siblings, because they started taking acting classes locally. And of course, my parents asked me if I wanted to, but I was just too shy. I was pretty shy. So I was like, I'm okay. Like, no, thanks. I was about 8 years old, or 7 or 8 at this time. And then my siblings, my older brother and older sister did like an expo in Dallas, and they started meeting with managers that way and whatever. And so then they got representation and started going from Ohio, which is where I'm from, to LA, going back and forth. And one of the trips when I came to visit them, we were at dinner with their managers, and they were like, are you sure you don't want to try acting? Which like my family had asked me so many times. And I was like, no, I think I do want to try. So I really just never looked back. I started coming out with them whenever they would come out to LA, and started in commercials and just literally never looked back. So
Yeah, and actually, as of the time that we're recording this, as I've already said, you're playing Samantha Fickman or Giggles on Big Shot for Disney Plus, and I suppose, like, how was your audition process for landing the role, and like, did you encounter anyone else who would end up being cast?
Great question, Connor. Yes, I love talking about this. It's so much fun. So funnily enough, my sister auditioned for the every person who is on the show auditioned for the role of Louise, with maybe the exception of Dimitri Schloss. I'm not sure for her, but all the basketball girls auditioned for Louise. So my sister had the audition, and she was kind of like, I wonder if my sister's not going in for this. Like, she kind of fits it more, whatever. So then I got the audition, and again, we all auditioned for Louise. Then at the callback, they didn't call like that many people back. So, or they might have, but like in the waiting room, I was quite literally sitting there with my sister, who also happened to get called back for the role of Olive, like I did. I didn't see Monique there, but I was there with Tisha and Tiana. Nell was not there because she was in New York. So I guess it was just the three of us, but it was a lot of the girls we ended up testing with then. And then we tested. And by that point, there were 4 roles: Olive, Destiny, Louise, and Mouse, and 8 girls testing for any of those roles. I was testing with Monique for Olive. We were head to head, if you will. And but there was a basketball test, so we had to do our basketball skills one day, and then we did the acting the next day. And as all those 8 girls who were testing for the 4 roles, we also all were testing for this unknown Giggles role, and no one knew a thing about this character. And we were all like, who is this? We don't know. Like, she was just in one scene to like set more of a group dynamic. So, and at that point, she was not even for surely a series regular. And so I got the call a couple days later. They were like, you're not in the running for the role of Olive anymore, which I kind of had a feeling about, but they were like, but you are, however, in the running for the role of Giggles, who has a real name, and her name's Samantha. So yes, we definitely all went through the casting process together. And I was so thrilled when I found out that I was probably like potentially going to get Samantha. And then when I got the call, because then it was like, you might get the role, but we don't even know if it's a series regular. So many steps, but it all ended up playing out how it played out. So I'm pretty happy.
For sure. And I mean, just hearing that, that's a great bit of trivia, a great story behind it, because just looking at the show, you wouldn't guess all that happened just in the making of it. But I mean, for sure,
Exactly.
yeah, it's a great story. I was enthralled listening to it.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah,
It was a wild ride. Yeah.
yeah, and just to say that one of the I guess creative names attached in developing the show is David E. Kelly, and obviously Ally McBeal and Big Little Lies and other projects like that. So like, were you
Yes.
aware that he was involved when you were auditioning, or was even that name familiar to you when you were auditioning?
It was familiar to me considering he's kind of an icon, but yes, so I had heard of him. My sister had a small role in Big Little Lies, so I had like known some of his other shows, and I'd loved Big Little Lies, so I was pretty familiar with his work. I do believe I knew it was David E. Kelly Productions, but at the same time, I had no idea what Disney Plus was, and I was for some reason under the impression it was about a half-hour comedy, and all of a sudden I'm like, wait, this is an hour-long drama, like dramedy. This is so different than what I had what I thought I was auditioning for. So it definitely wasn't what I expected, and John wasn't attached yet, but I think that might be part of the reason I ended up booking it, because I definitely psych myself out or get too excited about things. So it was kind of helped that I didn't really know too much of what was going on or what it was going to turn into.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously you mentioned John Stamos, who plays Marvin Korn, and a lot of the, I suppose, action away from the court is centered on him. He's sort of the centerpiece of the show. So yeah. and unless it's explored later, so in case obviously try to don't spoil anything, but have you put any thought into what Samantha's life is like away from the school and away from the basketball team?
Yes. So in season 1, Samantha has some cute little storylines going on, but I wouldn't necessarily say you learn a whole lot about her personal life. It's really still all in the school, whatever. However, I personally have come up with lots of different things because I feel like it's important to know your character and know who she is. I know how many siblings she has, what kind of dog she has, her parents' relationships, all this stuff that if the writers threw something at me, I'd be like, that wasn't Samantha's life. You don't know, like I made it up. No, but like I would be, they didn't give me those things to go off of. So I definitely felt it was necessary to create it for my own reality. And funny enough, I was at the beginning, mid-quarantine, my family and I took a trip, and it happened to just be to La Jolla, just driving there. It was just my 5 family members and my dogs, and we didn't see anyone. We were there, but going to La Jolla, which is obviously where the show takes place, I had never been. I've been to San Diego, but not specifically La Jolla. And that helped me so much because I was like, this is where, Samantha lives. I was picturing everything play out more. And I really felt like I was very in tune with my character when I went there because I had the time to do it. And I was like, I want to really dig deeper onto who Samantha is and figuring that out. And so that was really fun because then when we came back for episode 5, I did feel like I'd grown a lot in my character over the months we had taken off.
For sure. And actually just kind of thinking, because that's something you said, how Samantha was kind of introduced to the people auditioning a bit later in the process, because I'm thinking back on like some of the episodes that are out, she's had some of these kind of, I guess, funny one-liners or moments. I'm thinking of like following the school cafeteria on Twitter, that one's sticking out in my mind as I'm asking this. So like, would you say, and considering they're like, thinking of you for the part, like, would you say that you're like a naturally funny person, or is that a bit of a challenge to try and get across?
That is so funny, Connor. I don't mean this. I mean this in the most random way possible. Samantha Giggles did not have a great description. Like I think it said Sunny Optimist was about all we had. Whereas all the other girls had paragraphs about who they were. Giggles just didn't. So when they wanted me for the role, and they've told me this now, and everyone in the creative process has mentioned it now that it's been a while that I've been the role, they were like, we wanted a 5th girl. We wanted you. We had no idea where we were going with that. So they're like, we pretty much just did whatever you did with Samantha, we went with it. So I think I'd say I'm a very silly, random, off the wall, hyper person. I don't know about funny. It depends if someone's got my humor, but apparently, yeah, I do laugh when they give me some funny one-liners. Cause I'm like, this is good stuff, but I gotta give the credit to the writing because it's definitely them. But I like to be able to bring those little funny tidbits to life and hope the right audience catches them.
For sure. And I mean, I suppose obviously working with someone like John Stamos has got like the whole like sitcom background. Like, I'm sure he would have plenty of tips on how to be funny if you ever needed to, get anything like that. I would imagine.
Yes.
Anyway.
He's got the comedic timing down. And there have been a couple of times where we'll have takes, and at the very end, I'm pretty sure I'm one of the only ones of the girls that really was like a diehard I think I was the main diehard Full House fan of the girls, but some of them have definitely watched it. But he will just throw out a lot. Like sometimes they'll be right about to say cut, and at the end of the scene, he'll just throw something out, whether it's like him saying have mercy, a random thing. And I'm always dying laughing because I obviously totally get the reference and I'm laughing, but his timing and just like the shock of it is just so funny. No, I feel like I've learned a lot from John. He's great.
Yeah, I think the show definitely throws anyone who like might be just thinking, oh, this is Uncle Jesse coaching a basketball team. Like, I think John Stamos really sells the Marvin character. It doesn't feel like, you know, what people know. You know,
I have to agree, Connor. Again, having been a die-hard Full House fan, I totally was like, Uncle Jesse. When I met him, I was like, Cricket, play it cool, but it's Uncle Jesse. Like, I could not, I was just so in shock. And now knowing John more, obviously, I think of him as John, and I don't think of him as Uncle Jesse. But I think a big part of that is because he executes playing Marvin Korn so well that it does feel so different. I really am rarely am I in a scene thinking that was like Uncle Jesse. Occasionally have a word or a mannerism and I'll be like, oh my gosh, that actually just reminded me of Full House, and I'll laugh to myself. But normally it's very different. And so I give him a lot of credit. I mean, that is acting, but I'm like, that is a good actor when they totally such an iconic role and now they're so far from it.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, and just in like even the fictional universe that the show takes place in, he's Marvin Korn anyway, not John Stamos. It's a bit of like a controversial figure, obviously, you know, why he's working at the school in the first place. So, and it wasn't really like shown on camera. It was kind of like said in dialogue. But what do you think the general like reaction was among the girls when they heard that this was who was coming in to replace whoever had just left?
I think just about everyone felt pretty skeptical. I have to say, Samantha personally, I think occasionally she doesn't always have the most original ideas. I think because everyone else, besides the exception of like Mouse, you know, Tisha Custodio's character, I think she, you know, is the most optimistic about it. And although Samantha is an optimist, she was definitely feeling a little sketchy about this too. But I think that could partially be, you know, if the main girls on the team are all like, we don't think we're going to like him, or we're feeling this way about it. I think that Samantha was just kind of falling in line with that and also just needed him to prove himself, that's for sure. And so I think that was the main thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually spoke with your co-star Jessalyn Gilsig recently, and when I spoke to her, when I spoke to her, I kind of asked her about like, you know, her dynamic with, you know, playing the assistant coach, her dynamic with the actors playing the team. So I suppose maybe to flip the question that I asked her, like, how was your experience working with Jessalyn, or obviously we kind of covered John Stamos, but I suppose Yvette Nicole Brown as well to add in there, like your experience working with those guys.
Yes. I love this question. I love talking about them. We are absolutely so lucky to get to work with such amazing, amazing actors. As well as Richard Robichaux, who, you know, plays our counselor. We don't have quite as many scenes with him, but all of those adults, their comedic timing, their experience, they blow me away. I will say, Jessalyn, I have so much respect for all of them, but she really has taken the time a couple times with me. I remember in the pilot, I was like, Jessalyn, like, I think I was just saying it out loud. I was like, I don't really, you know, not many people around, but I was like, I don't really know who Samantha is. I don't really know why I'm here. Like, I just always like have little one-liners and I don't feel like whatever. Obviously, by the end of the season, that's not the case anymore. And of course, you know, you can't cover everyone in a pilot. That's why it's a pilot. But Jessalyn, like, really sat me down. She was like, I just want you to, she was like, then maybe this is, you know, your time to learn your T's or learn, you know, find your camera angle. She said, you can learn so much by not having the spotlight be on you right now. And I absolutely was so grateful she said that, took it with me. And we've had multiple chats now about different little concerns or random things. And I have to say, I don't mean to be dramatic, but she might literally, I consider her like a genius in the acting field, because I have learned absolutely so much from obviously things she's told me or said to me, but also just like watching her in action. So I think the dynamic is really great. And I think she wants to help us so much, which we appreciate. And she's just so incredible to be able to work alongside.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. And she was great to speak to. I spoke to her only recently. And I mean, obviously you've worked with her, you know, a lot better than I got to, but I mean, you're just a lovely person from what I could tell.
Great.
Yeah. And actually, something that she was telling me, and you briefly mentioned it as well, is obviously with the pandemic and having to stop production and go back to it, was difficult for you to kind of pick up where you left Samantha, like what was going on in the storyline, or were you able to slot back into her easily enough?
That's a good question. I would say, I think the characters as well as the writing kind of all matured a little bit over the giant break we had. So I feel like it was for the better. Personally, I cringe watching anything that happened before Corona. I haven't seen a lot of the episodes from after it, but I'm like, I'm so weirdly glad we had that time. to, like I said, that was when, I took the time personally to tune into my character more and just stuff like that. I think it really helped us. And storyline wise, we have a little bit of like, occasionally, you have a problem in the episode and normally we solve it in some way, shape, or form. So I think because I didn't personally have really an ongoing storyline, it was pretty easy to pick back up because it was like, oh, what's my new problem now that we're back? Instead of a carrying on feeling or problem or issue. But I definitely think it was for the better in the weirdest way possible. So yeah.
Yeah, I actually picked up on something you said, that episode 5 was the one that you came back with. Was
yes.
it? So that means everything that's out so far that's all pre-pandemic. So everything that's after is still yet to come.
Yes, so I'm so excited for this next week because I think I have a glow up and we're just like on a better page. I feel more mature. I think you'll know, if you look close enough, you'll be able to tell people's hair is longer. We are older, like so funny, but yeah. And I think the maturity is there in a good way. I don't know. I just prefer the episodes more. And I think the characters are, just as you go on in any show, you would get more in tune with who you are and more developed. But I think it was just really, I think it's really nice to see. I love these episodes coming up.
Yeah, because I mean, as I was watching along, I was trying to figure out, is this the one where they came back? And as Jessalyn said, it took you guys 3 calendar years to finish this. 2019.
One season. Yes.
Earlier this year. Yeah, it's mad. So I guess now going into episode 5 and knowing that's the one you came back in, that's a whole other dimension, I suppose, to consider while watching it. So I'll definitely.
Yes, so it's kind of like a little fun fact. I wonder if anyone will catch on if they didn't already know. They'll be like, they look a lot different this time around. Yeah.
Yeah. I was trying to figure it out, but I mean, honestly, like it could have been any of the other episodes, and I would have been clueless because that's just,
That's hilarious. Well, there are a few scenes like in episode 2, we reshot after, like in the middle of Corona for episode 2, a couple of the scenes. So technically, we have had a couple scenes jump in there. But even when I was watching like episode 2, and I was like, we look so much older. I'm carrying myself so differently. I can tell I'm so much more confident in who Samantha is, and I can tell the other girls are like that too. So it was really funny to look back and watch those.
Yeah, and I suppose then maybe, obviously, it is quite a long time to be filming a season of a show, but do you have any experiences that stand out of that really long journey that you end up taking?
Ooh, I think I feel like we all talk about our chemistry with all the, just the whole cast is really, I feel like a very strong chemistry. Of course, you're going to be like family with probably any cast you work with, but I think that is actually because we got to work with each other so closely for so long on this very first season, I think that just like is an undeniable chemistry. So I think that is definitely one of the random positives that came out of this, is that we just got to get to know each other so well and just care about each other so much. In Corona, we talked quite often. We have a group chat, we are all chatting in, and it's just like, we'll call and I'm catching up with this person or whatever. So I think just like getting to know, it's normally, we could have filmed 3 seasons in this time span. So I think getting to see all that in one season is really interesting and different, and was definitely a positive we weren't expecting.
And I suppose in a more like in a broader sense, like professionally or personally, what you're hoping to accomplish with the rest of 2021?
Oh, dang. Well, that's a good question. I mean, I guess it just kind of depends on, if there's a season 2 or not for Big Shot, which would be probably this summer sometime. I don't know. I think I always just am down for new opportunity. I think just anything new and exciting. I'm not opposed. There's a lot I'm not opposed to, like if a modeling thing came up, sure. If a movie comes around, I've never done a movie, that could be fun. So I think I don't have a specific goal, but I just think something new and something exciting without, just while I'm on pause with Big Shot, because it's definitely, you never know what's going to happen in this business. But I think new things, exciting things, random things are always so much fun to take on.
Yeah, and that was actually all like the pre-prepared questions I had. So I suppose maybe like to round this off, is there anything you'd want to say to like fans of Big Shot, or just anything in general?
I'm just gonna go ahead and say thank you so much to everyone who's watched. You guys have no idea how much. I'm gonna speak for the whole cast, but especially me, I love hearing from anyone and everyone who's been watching it. The feedback we've been receiving has been absolutely overwhelming with how much love it's been getting. So we appreciate that so much. And it's been such a crazy journey. So knowing that all this time and hard work has been paying off and people are really connecting to it, that's the main thing. When people are like, I feel destiny because of this. I'm not destiny, but I literally could cry of happiness hearing that, just hearing us people vibe with each character or feel it, or, I don't know how many people relate to Samantha necessarily in too many crazy levels, because I haven't dug that deep yet, but I'm still like, it just means the world to us to hear that, or at least to me. I'm again speaking for myself, but it's just been so incredible. So thank you to anyone who's watched any of it. And I personally, I might be a little biased. I think it just gets better as it keeps going. I love this series myself. I definitely would be a watcher if I wasn't in it. So I feel like that means it's a good show, but that's just in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, and just looking at the names who are in it, I think that would, entice anyone to watch, even if they had no idea what it was about. It's a great cast of people.
I was going to say, I would for sure be intrigued. I'd be like, I'm sorry, Helen is with Uncle Jesse, is with, I know Jessalyn from Friday Night Lights. So I would be like, with, whatever. So it's just so funny to see all these, incredible. I would be definitely at least intrigued for a few episodes, and then I'd probably get hooked.
Yeah. And obviously, like, best of luck with the rest of the season and whatever else is up ahead for you. And I'll say thanks again for taking the time to speak with me. Take care and stay safe.
Thank you, Connor. I've really enjoyed this, of course.